we're going to have to make one of these itty-bitty fasteners. Our Through the Week project on the Crafted channel is replacing this fastener. It was stripped out and I've since lost the fastener, and I like this clip. I like using this clip to put this knife on my pocket. It's nice to access from outside without digging around in my pocket. But before we can start this project, it's cold in here. We're going to have to warm the shop up. Today, we're going to fix this knife, stripped out screw. We're going to have to make one of these itty-bitty fasteners. And I'm going to make the fastener out of this 440 button head machine screw. We see on the knife that the blade passes in front of the holes. So we can't have the fastener protruding through the scale of the knife where it might interfere with the blade. The good fastener that we have is a 2.5 millimeter fastener. The English diameter of this thread is 0.95. I plan on replacing it with this 440, and we can see that it is 110, 111 thousandths. We have another issue here, and that's head size. The head on the 440 button head is 200 thousandths. The head on the stock fastener is 155 thousandths. Where the head diameter comes into play, the good thread that I have in the good fastener goes in this hole, and this hole here is where the 440 is going to go. And that head will hit this break or bend in the clip. So we're going to have to grind down the diameter of the head. Some things to consider when replacing a stripped fastener. Since we're going to be drilling the hole and making it larger, we need to take some measurements of things and figure out what sizes are available to us. The existing fastener, 2.5 millimeter, requires a tapped hole of 0.984, and the screw OD is 2.36 millimeter. Now I looked at 448. The problem with this would have been a great one to use. I would have had 4.36 threads in the thickness of the plate, which is about 0.91, and about 18.5 thousandths thread engagement. But a box of those is about $9. So the one I decided to go with was 440. This requires an 0.98 hole to be drilled, but we're really dealing with a fastener that's about 0.94, 0.95 in diameter, so I'm going to lose about 6 thousandths of this thread engagement. But that's going to leave me 22 thousandths of thread engagement, about 10 thou aside, so I ought to have a real good bite out of a 440. And the thickness of the plate, 0.91, there will be 3.64 threads, which I think will be pretty decent. I should be able to snug it up and not have the clip come loose. Now this might seem like a lot to go through figuring all this out for a knife, but I wanted to do it right. And if you were fixing something that was really expensive and not a $20 knife, you know, you would want to do it carefully and figure out your hole size, the hole size that's there after you drill out the threads and all that stuff in order to pick a good fastener. So here we're going to do 440. So hopefully I can get this apart and back together without stripping any more threads. These screws here are actually in a spacer that's between the scales. Don't want to lose any of these either. And likely the reason this failed is crappy Chinese threading. Possibly an undersized fastener or an overcut thread in the material. Don't want to lose any of these spacers. These little nylon washers, so we'll be careful with all of that stuff. And now we have out the piece of material we're going to be working on. And here's our bad hole. The 440 thread requires a number 43 hole be drilled. This is number 43 bit. Raise the table up. I'm going to let the lock hang over the side here. I'm going to drill this carefully and slowly. Let it float a little bit to center. We took hardly anything out of there. Almost nothing. But then again, when the screw stripped, it would have pulled metal out. It would have pulled the existing threads out of there. I'm going to install the 440 tap. You got to be very careful with small taps. They're very easily broken. I'm going to remove the belt because I'm going to just be turning the spindle by hand. I don't want a power tap with a tiny tap. That would be bad news. So here we can control it and be nice and careful. I've decided to loosen the spring that causes the quill to return in the up position, so I don't have to fight with that. I could just adjust it very soft. There we go. I'm going to leave it right there, which leaves the quill. And let's put a little more tension on it. There we go. That's got it floating just above our work. I've decided to change away from the wood to one of my 123 blocks, which is a much nicer tool, and I'm going to do the tapping overhanging the block. I'm going to let the part float so it centers, and then I'm going to turn the quill with only very light pressure on the crank. I felt the tap winding up, so I'm turning it back to cut the burr off. It's very easy to break a small tap. Tighten the chuck up. I mean, I wouldn't want it to slip in the chuck, would I? May regret that. There we go. Cut the swerve. I'm not even going to go a whole turn. Well, she does want to slip in here. And by using my small shop drill press to hold my tap, I can be more assured of a good square hole. You could do this by hand, of course, but it would be hard to do it as straight. Wow, that's just all the force I dare put on that. I think I'm going to change taps. It doesn't feel like it wants to finish. A little bit of oil on this tap. Boy, maybe it's just that this scale is very hard. Looks like we're just about there. Sure doesn't want to make that last thread. Sticking through the plate about 3/16 of an inch. Got the first tap back in here. And using a drill press, to do this is another factor in not breaking the tap, because it keeps me from bending the tap, which I might be more prone to do that with a tap handle. Yeah, I think this is the better tap. I think I've got the thread formed. It's a little snuggly, but I think it'll do fine. Head doesn't go quite down to the surface, but it's going down below the thickness of the clip. So I think I'll be fine. I think the threads are finished well enough up to the head. About to do something a little more dangerous here. I have to drill this hole out. It's about, I think it's 0.98. This is a number 36 or 34, I forget. A 111 drill bit. This fastener, the 440 that goes through here, is 110 and a half a thousandths. So this is half a thousandths bigger. I have to slightly open that hole up to clear the fastener. And I've got a good leather glove here, just in case this grabs and yanks out of my hands. Nice high speed. Yes. So how do we get this large head on the left down to the size of the little head on the right, or closer to it? I've got an easy trick for that, and stay tuned because I got a really good trick for how we're going to shorten the bolt next. I'm going to use this piece of 01 tool steel to shorten the fastener. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, it's going to become obvious in a moment here. Cutting a bolt off very, very short is a problem, and especially if I want to do it accurately. I want the bolt to fill up the whole thickness of this plate. This plate and this piece of tool steel are within a couple thousandths of exactly the same thickness. Now, something else. Earlier, I had difficulty threading this hole. I almost broke a couple of taps. And the mistake I made, and I was being aggressive at trying to get a lot of thread engagement, is I used a number 43 drill bit to drill the hole, which gives you a 75% thread. And that's normally only used in plastics or possibly aluminum. And I should have used a 42, which is slightly larger, that gives you only 50% thread engagement, but it's normal for steel fasteners. So I've got the number 42 drill bit installed in the drill press now, and we're going to drill this hole. And never fear, this is metal for knife making, but we're never going to use the corner here because that's always going to be in the curve of the tip or something. And even though it's 01 tool steel, it hasn't been hardened, So it's still very soft and machinable. A little bit of a low drill speed, but we did just fine. Notice we don't have any squeaking. It's going right through it. I haven't even had to break a chip. Let me break one though, just to be careful. Piece of cake. We all make mistakes. I was being greedy trying to get as much thread in the knife scale as I could get. We will thread it into our hole here with the tool steel. I think it's done. Barely see the end of the fastener. Touch this a little bit, but still a useful piece of material. There it is, one short fastener. Now my fastener is a little longer than their fastener, but I'm going to fill up the thickness of this plate. One of the reasons why theirs stripped out is it probably was a little shorter than that. Maybe it only had one thread or two. Hopefully when I put this back together, I won't strip one of the original fasteners here. But if I do, I can fix it. This is the good original fastener. That takes a nice torque. And here's my crafted made fastener. Have this lined up properly. Let me loosen this one so we're not fighting it. There we go. Got it started nice. Oh yeah, takes a good torque. That one I want to be careful with how much I torque it. So there we go. Stock appearing. One's a hex and one's a Torx. We've repaired one knife. That's good and tight. So there it is, folks. We made a stock appearing fastener out of a bigger fastener, got it rethreaded. We got our pocket clip installed again. We have a nice pocket knife to carry around. Won't have to worry about losing it, or the fasteners, or the clip. Short project, didn't take much time. What have you done in your workshop? Time to get a project done. You got a little something that you can do to make your workshop better, or to repair one of your bushcraft items or one of your EDC items. It's time to get busy.